welcome to how to make root beer. In this video we will make 1 gallon of root beer. So we will start off with a gallon of regular natural spring water, and you can see here root beer extract, and we have 2.5 cups of sugar and just a pinch of yeast, and this is just regular distiller's yeast. Some other ingredients or supplies that you'll need, be helpful to have a funnel, spoon to stir everything up with, some measuring spoons for the root beer extract, and I have about 9 bottles here, and also one of these regular plastic bottles, which I'll talk about when we get to the bottling. But the first step that we'll need to take care of is we need to heat up this water, which will make it easier to dissolve the sugar. So I'll go ahead and get that started. Okay, so I've heated the water. It doesn't have to be to any certain temperature. It's just warming it up so that it's easier to dissolve the sugar once we add it in there. It'll be easier to dissolve the sugar. It'll take less time, and then you'll be able to start to cool down your liquid. So I'm adding here 2.5 cups of just regular table sugar, and we're just going to stir that up. What I did when I was boiling this or heating it up, I only put in half of the gallon. You can see the other half there. And by just doing half a gallon, when you add the other gallon in, it will bring the temperature of your liquid back down faster, so that you can add your yeast at the end, because you'll add your yeast when the temperature is about 70 degrees. I'm looking around for a thermometer. I can't find the thermometer, so it must be upstairs. So now what I'm going to do is I need to open up this root beer extract bottle. So I need to put the camera down, so I will be back to add the 2 tablespoons of root beer extract. Okay, as you can see, I have added the root beer extract. Everything has dissolved. The sugar's dissolved. Root beer extract is very well incorporated. I'm going to take a temperature read right now and see what this temperature is. See, they're just under 150 degrees. So we'll add in the water right now. And then we'll take another temperature reading. And if we need to, we'll cool it down some more, whether that's in the sink or just letting nature take its course and just be patient and wait for it. Give that another good stir. I should clarify that the spoon, the measuring spoons, all of these bottles, everything was sanitized before we started. I just use a mild bleach solution. I think it's 1 tablespoon or so per 5-gallon container that I usually use. So you can see right now that's dropped it to around 100 degrees. So we still need to come down probably at least another 20 degrees. Ideally we get closer to that 70 degrees, but the type of yeast that I'm using today, we could still, use that in that 90 degree range. But when it gets much hotter, it starts to kill off the yeast instead of allowing it to thrive like you want it to, which will happen at 70 degrees. I'll put the spoon here, and we'll just give this a few minutes to come down in temperature, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, the root beer is currently at 90 degrees, so while that continues to cool off, I wanted to talk a little bit about the bottles that we're going to be using today. Most of the time I use these swing top bottles that have a little rubber gasket that will maintain the seal. What's really good about these is that you can reuse these bottles many times over before you need to replace this gasket. But also, as your root beer is carbonating, you can check it every now and then by opening up that swing top, you know, and you can tell by the sound of that when it opens up how much carbonation you have, as opposed to a regular bottle cap that once you open it, it's a little more difficult. You'd have to go through the whole bottling process again. Something else that we're going to use today is this little plastic bottle. So if you have any soda bottles at home, just keep the caps, and you could actually bottle in those. The cool thing about that is as your root beer carbonates, you can squeeze the bottle and feel just how much carbonation is in there. And then once it has the carbonation that you want, you can start to consume it. More than likely, when we add the yeast and bottle these, we will be looking at a week of shelf time that the bottles are on the shelf carbonating, and then after that you can start to expect to be able to consume the bottles and see some kind of carbonation as you go along. Because of the yeast and usually how we're storing these at room temperature, that carbonation can continue going. So it may get to a point where you open up the bottle and foams all over. So you just check it, every other day or so, by opening it, and you can hear how much carbonation is coming out, or you can feel it on the sides. And when it has the carbonation that you want, just go ahead and enjoy it. And once we put in this root beer extract, you can just smell that root beer flavor. It smells really good. So I'm going to check the temperature now, see where we're at, and once we're down to that 70 degrees, we will add the yeast. Okay, we are back. The root beer is at 75 degrees, and that's well within my temperature window. So I'm going to go ahead and add the yeast now, and this is regular Distiller's active dry yeast. It's similar to like regular bread yeast, and you can use regular bread yeast. That's fine. I've experimented with different amounts of yeast to use. The original recipe that comes with the root beer extract, one of the first ones that I had read, had you using a 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, but that ends up leaving a lot of like a yeasty aftertaste, kind of like bready aftertaste in the root beer. And I just kept scaling back more and more on the yeast until we ended up just doing just a pinch. But we've also, one of the great things about homemade root beer that I enjoy is the ability to scale back the amount of sugar that's in it. This 2.5 cups of sugar is still far less than what you would typically find in store-bought sodas. And you can see the top, the flecks of yeast still floating on there. They will start to incorporate more as they become, reactivated with the liquid. But I'm going to put the camera down now so that I can have two hands to work on bottling the root beer into our swing tops and our plastic bottle over there. So just a moment, please. Alright, we're back now. And I got regular ladle that I've also sanitized with our super mild bleach solution. And what we do now is just start to ladle it into each of the bottles until we get to about 1 inch from the top, and then we'll stop and cap it at that point. And remember with these, we're just it's a swing top, so we'll just flip the bail on top. I would say you know, any type of bottle will really work out, especially like I said, the soda bottles that you could reuse before you take them back to recycling. But these, something else you could do that I've had success with is asking someone to put it on Facebook, put it on your own Facebook account, that you need bottles. Maybe, you know, tell them the type of bottles that you need. If you're going to be bottling something, you'd be amazed at how many people have bottles sitting around in their basement that they've been saving for something, or someone else gave to them. So it's worth checking out. But they're definitely, these types of bottles are definitely worth the investment. So I'm going to speed things up now on the video, or just cut out this part as we get the next bottles filled up, and then we'll meet you back at the end. Okay, so we're back now. All of these bottles are filled. We've got 7 of these swing tops, plus our 1 regular plastic bottle. So we'll go ahead and screw the cap on that one and close these. Then what you're going to do is you're going to let these sit at room temperature for a week, and that sitting at room temperature, you know, allows that yeast to do its magic, and it's going to create some carbon dioxide. Yeast is used, you know, in fermentation. It's going to, you know, if you let this go, if we had more yeast in it, it would create a more alcoholic drink. The amount of yeast that we're using in this, in a short amount of time, we're only going to have, you know, a minuscule amount of alcohol, way less than 1%. So then you could also, you know, put these at a cooler temperature down in your basement, and that would slow that fermentation down. If you knew that you were going to want root beer, you know, on such and such date, you could work back from that to have a week of sitting at room temperature, and then you could drop it down into your basement into a cooler temperature until then. But typically what we do is, you know, we'll make this 1 week, let it sit and ferment, and then we'll put it in the refrigerator and drink it within another 2 to 3 weeks after that. But there you have it. Homemade root beer with just some root beer extract that you can find either in the grocery store or online, a gallon of water, and just some regular table sugar. I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, please let us know. But enjoy the rest of your day and celebrate National Library Week. Bye.